Hi, this is the long lost Nancy L.T. Hamilton, and I'm back with another video. Today I'm going to show you how to make a ring shank, and I'm going to start by explaining what a ring shank is. This is a ring, and this is the shank, the part that slides onto your finger. This is my new fabulous boat ring that's only divas can wear, by the way. So come with me and the producer, and we'll show you how to make a ring shank today. So if you're not one of those fortunate people who knows what size your ring finger or your fingers are, you just get a little piece of paper like about, I don't know, what is that? Doesn't really matter, does it? It looks like 80 millimeters. And approximately the size you're going to make your ring. And just take it and wrap it around your finger. And where it overlaps, can you see that? Right there. I just make a little mark with a pencil. It doesn't have to be pretty. And then we open that up, and what I'm going to do is measure from the end of this paper to this little mark right here, and that's what size you're going to make your ring. So if you aren't making it for yourself, or you already know your size, I've made this handy dandy little adjustable ring sizing chart. This is for my open shank rings that I love for people with arthritis, old bags like me where fingers swell and shrink daily, and just having a more comfortable, more flexible sized ring. So these sizes, if you were making a soldered ring shank, I would not go by these. I go by more exact numbers, but these are the ones that I go by when I need to make rings to sell. So I will also have this up on my website for you to copy for your own use. So once you've decided what size finger you have, which is probably a very pressing question, then you need to figure out what you want your ring shank to look like. And I've already decided what this ring is going to look like for you, so you don't even have to think. So here we go. We're going to draw it out. How to draw out a ring shank. So the first thing we need to do is mark this line, and I'm going to make an size 8 ring. So I'm going to come over here, and I recommend using grid paper because you've always got one perfectly straight, perfectly square corner to work off of. So I make a tick at the beginning of my line, and then I need to make this 61 millimeters, so I make a tick at the 61, make sure it's straight, and draw a line across like that. So that at this point is 61 millimeters. Then what we need to do is determine how wide we want to make the shank that's inside the finger, the 2 points that are going to come together. And I just sometimes I just stick the ruler like this and go, oh, I don't know, what about 6 millimeters looks pretty good for me. So what you want to do then is you want to do 3 millimeters on this side and 3 millimeters on that side. So I line this up, and at my tick, and I make a mark at 3 millimeters, and then once again at the first millimeter, and then over here at the 6 millimeter. So basically what I've got is 3 millimeters here, 3 millimeters here. I do the same on the other side, somehow. Draw my line. I should have done that down here. Draw my line. So these are the marks for the end of your ring. Now what I want to do, I should have done this before. When I was doing this, measuring out my 61 millimeters, I should mark my center, which is 30 and a half, because you need your center. Okay, now we have, this is kind of like math, isn't it? Now what I'm going to do is draw a line. I'm going to approximate it, and this is another reason the grid's nice. I can tell if I'm kind of straight here. I don't want to do a beautiful, perfect straight line, but just enough so I know where the middle is. And now I want to determine how big I want it to be on the top of my finger. And in this ring, I want to do 12 millimeters because I want it to be a nice chunky top. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did at the end. I'm going to mark 12, but I'm going to do 6 on the left side and 6 on the right side. That would be millimeters, kids. Okay, 6. And then the 12 over here. Alright, so now at this point I'm going to make these in blue so you can see them better. I have a bunch of dots, And we're literally going to connect the dots right now. So you can draw from the small end to that point, like that. Same on the other side. My stomach is growling. This is not really pretty. I'm doing it fast for you, so you don't get bored. Short attention span theater here. Another line. Another. We should have music going, the producer. Da, 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 da. Okay, so there we basically have our ring shank designed. And what I'm going to do now is, and you don't have to watch me, I promise, I'm just going to cut this out and we're going to talk about the metal next. So when you determine the metal thickness for your ring, remember that anything less than 22 gauge is a little too flimsy for a ring. If you roller print, be aware that the metal will go down one size, and if you're going to use copper, also be aware that you need to solder on a piece of silver to the back of it, sweat solder it on. It will increase the thickness as well as protect your finger from turning green, which is not very attractive for most people. So remember, use 22 and up. 20 gauge probably be even better. So at this point, what you'll do is cut out your pattern, and I try to cut close to the lines. It's more efficient use of your metal to see exactly where it's going, especially when you work with funky little pieces like this. So glue it on. I usually use a glue stick, simple and easy, and dries pretty quickly. And we drew these lines across and down originally, so what we need to do now is right where these two lines intersect, we're going to, for this tube set polymer clay ring, we're going to make a divot here, and that's where we're going to put our tube for the tube set ring. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and saw this out, and I'm also going to round out my edges. I happen to have one that's done here, so your piece will look like this. Don't forget to finish these edges here, because there's usually a little burr on there from the sawing process, and like I said, round these out, and then we'll go on to our next step. So for the ring that we're going to be making, the tube, you determine the tube size. I'm using, in this case, 1/8 inch tubing. I know everything's usually measured in millimeters, but for some reason this stuff is sold in the inch size. So I don't understand it any more than you do. So what I'm going to do is match up my drill bit to the tubing size. This is the easy way to do it, end to end. You can also use your calipers to measure it. And so at this point we've already made our divot. I would drill a pilot hole at this point, and then I would, with a smaller drill bit, and then use my larger drill bit, because this is kind of big and it can skitter off. It also makes a cleaner hole if you've already got a pilot hole drilled. So I've already drilled my hole, because watching me drill is not that much fun, although some of you might get off on it. So now we're ready to go in and shape this shank on the ring mandrel in my tool room. Follow me. So here we are in the tool room, and I have before you two ring mandrels. This is a traditional one. It's round, and most rings are made using this. I don't like it, because when I make these big chunky rings like this, and a round ring mandrel, a round shank rolls right off, especially when you've got something this size on top of it. I like to use the squared off ring mandrel, and this is really just as comfortable as a round. It's just works a lot better. This is a little mandrel holder here. It tightens down. It holds, supposedly tightens down. I gotta open the drawer. I hope there's no black widows roaming around in here. And so what I'm going to do now is get my mallet, rawhide mallet out, and I'm going to first start by, I've got this, now it's so tight I can't move it. I've got one of the flat edges facing upwards, and I'm going to hammer the ends down like so. I'm going to do it on both sides. It's a little less fun. See how I'm rotating it? I'm moving it because because this is tapered, if you don't rotate, you'll end up with one side of the ring smaller than the other side. So you always have to rotate your shank around. So now, actually this stuff is so thin. Pretty much do it with my hand. I'm going to hold it here and start tapping it down on that side and this side, and then I'm going to take it off and do it on the other side. The point of keeping this square is because it is a square, so I want this circle, my drilled hole in the middle, centered. I don't want it off to the side because it would look silly. So see, we're not quite lined up here, so I'm going to tap again. And you saw how that was kind of off. That's because even if you are rotating it, it still tends to move weird because of the graduation of the shape of the ring mandrel. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. I've got a nice centered line here. I always take a look at it here, make sure it looks even. That looks a little wanky to me, so I gotta see how this side is higher than this side, so I have to figure out how to fix that. It's all kinds of fun things you get to do. So I'm going to hammer a little more on this side, try to even it out. It takes a little fussing around to get these exactly right, but once you're done with them, you're done with them. So okay, oh, it's still too high. Ratsarola. It has to come over a little more on this side, so I'm going to pull it up to the front a little bit. Get a little more space. See how that. All right, I'm almost there now. Nothing happens exactly easy, you know. You always got to suffer a little bit, otherwise it's not art. All right, that's looking much better. So I'm happy with that. So at this point, I have a lovely ring shank with a hole in the middle. At this point, if this was really a pretty piece of metal and a thicker, I would go ahead and it didn't have a hole, I could call it a ring and be done with it. But we are going to be making a ring with a donut on top of this, and we'll do that in our next video. So now you know the basics of making an open ring shank, a la Nancy Hamilton. And the next video we will talk about making our little donut shape for the top, which is going to be really fun too. So thanks for coming. See you next time.